don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hello there. All right, The Last of Us Episode 3. Okay, episode might have problems for some people, but yes, I did find issues. Because I'll always find something to have an issue with. First issue, I would say, is they had this way of doing the opening, which would get me incredibly interested in the story, where it just does something completely different than the game I was used to playing, where they tell the story. First one, it was basically John Hannah telling a recap of what would be a scary thing with fungus. Then it was in Indonesia, where they were basically dealing with it. And then in episode 3, they get rid of it entirely and start off with Joel and Ellie, which I honestly didn't realize it was bothering me till, well, I'd gotten into it. I'm like, what happened to the interesting start? And then finally the Joel-Ellie sequence ends, and then it goes basically back to 2003, where I think it should have started. It should have started in 2003, where they basically have Bill defending his house, hiding in his bunker as everyone's basically being evacuated. And then after they introduce him, after everything's gone, they can cut to Joel and Ellie. They can do that and then kind of go back and forth. I feel like a back and forth would have worked better. However, I liked it because you see the survivalist mindset. You see his flags in the background. As soon as I saw "Don't Tread on Me," I was like, oh, okay, this guy's a beatnik who really knows what he's doing. I always loved Bill. In the game, he was by far the best character. They really did age him up in the show. They wanted to give his entire lifespan. So at the start of in 2003 is as old as he was in the game when you meet him. So they aged him up for 20 years from 2003 to 2023. And I didn't mind it. I did not mind it. And another thing that bothered me was finally he's warned that raiders will attack him. 3 years go by, raiders finally attack. And in my mind, I'm thinking if someone finds out that there's gas, running power, because this guy is just literally Bill and his boyfriend who he captured, Frank, literally captured, and they just fell in love. And I honestly, it felt rushed. I gotta say, the relationship felt very instantaneous. But the build up after that, because they skipped 3 years, it's Bill and Frank arguing about what they want to do. Then they skip like 3 more years. Joel and Tess are sitting at a table with Bill, and so they were jumping, and then Joel basically warns Bill. Then they skip 3 more years, and Bill is being raided by raiders. We should have gotten like another quick jump like a few months later where it's Joel, Tess, Bill, and Frank all basically destroyed. Sure, it would have added like 20 more minutes, but it would have kind of rounded it so the raiders, because Joel has said he has done things like what raiders have done. He's been a raider. He's done all this dark stuff. And so it would be nice if we kind of get a clip of them hunting him down and just showing that they took care of it. Because it skipped from a Bill being shot, telling Frank to call Joel, and then it skips 10 years. Frank's in a wheelchair. I guess I forget. I don't know what he's dying of, but he's dying of something, or his body can't move. He has no power over his muscles. Is that lupus, leukemia? I think it's. I don't know what it is, honestly. Tell me what it is in the comments. I don't know, but they skipped, and I was just, in my mind, that was just a whiplash, immediate. However, it brought me back immediately because they had this action sequence, which kind of built up to, because you see Joel, you immediately think that there's going to be an action sequence. And then they didn't answer that, but they did continue on. And here Frank realizes he's tired of, being alive. Tells Bill what he wants to do. I'm not happy with what they did. I am not happy because here is this long, hard, drawn-out speech as to what Frank wants done. Frank wants them to spend the day together, wants them to get married, wants them to have honestly, the last meal he had was the first meal him and Bill had together. So I was looking at that going like, oh, that's sweet. They even do a cutaway to the hole that he never covered up again because it was how he caught Frank, how Bill caught Frank. So it was very emotionally powerful. And then he adds the poison to Frank's glass, and they both take a drink. Or Frank takes a drink, gulps his down completely, and then Bill drinks his down, and then immediately you register that, oh my gosh, it was the wine that had like a drug in it. Bill had a way out from the beginning, and I was just aggravated because it's like, I was kind of hoping we would get this shot, this tear-filled shot of Bill carrying Frank to his bed, holding him tightly, crying his heart out, and literally like when Joel and Ellie show up, he's sitting on the porch, just like in a rocking chair, holding his gun, like hasn't eaten, hasn't done anything, just letting time pass away. Because I felt like, yes, he wanted to pass away with it, but I did not like that. I was thinking that Bill's a stubborn guy, an absolutely stubborn guy. He would fight for... so I think he would take his own... He wouldn't poison himself. I don't know. I just had this weird vision of what Bill would do. Like, I expected him to basically be on the porch, literally rotting away, just sitting there, not eating, not drinking, just starving himself, depriving himself of everything, until Joel and Ellie show up. He gives them what they need and sends them on, even though Joel is trying to... I think that would have been better, because he's basically guarding over the grave because he buried... I think that's how I feel it should have gone, because they introduced it. I hate it when they show something, they tell you how it's going to be, you get emotionally invested, and then they rip the carpet out from under you. That's where I had the issue, because everything else was well done. It was the relationship, even though it felt a little rushed in the beginning. I liked how it kind of jumped into them having an argument 3 years later because he wanted to mow the lawn. And it was a waste of resources, apparently. I liked it. I really liked it. It was just, there's three things. The opening not being how they've established The Last of Us openings will be. 2 is the freaking Raider attack, which lasts a moment, and they don't actually sum it up with anything. Did all the Raiders die? Did Joel and Tess help them get rid of them? What happened there? They just skipped 10 years. And then Bill basically offing himself. I mean, I can understand that's him, that's very poetic in a way, but at the same time, as the audience, we were told that Frank was going to die and he was going to pass away in Bill's arms. And I was imagining Bill tearing up, crying. And I got to say, Nick Offerman for this position was amazing. I absolutely was elated to hear it when I first heard that he was... And I'm glad he got an episode to himself. Honestly, I didn't really care because I was like, okay, we're going to get more survivalist, more crazy loner vibes. And honestly, it was well done. The fact that when they leave, Bill starts raiding the town immediately. And I was like, okay, this hits close to home because I hate the cities. I love the country. Easier to I wouldn't say I'm a survivalist. Not at all. Absolutely not. But I would be able to prep because you got to know that if you noticed, Bill and Frank had civilization. They had running water, hot and cold water. They had power constantly. They had everything they could possibly want. However, you go to the quarantine zone, there is bombings blowing up because people aren't seeing eye to eye. People are always the issue. You can see that from Bill and Frank's location to the quarantine zone where they're hating one another. I absolutely loved it. Great episode, except for those three things. And that's not a lot for someone like me who normally will find one thing that bothers me and rail into it and constantly complain about it. It was actually very well balanced in the long run. Sure, I've already made my peace on those, but in the end, I did enjoy it. I will not lie. I did enjoy it. I was expecting when I heard that Bill killed him, I was kind of disappointed. And I am disappointed because it didn't... Honestly, I think him taking a gun to his head, because I remember at the end of the game, or when you left Bill alone in the game, I had the vibe that he was going to take his own life. That he was going to shoot himself because Frank was no longer around. I had that feeling. So I think if I felt like he was going to kill himself, he would take a bullet to the head, not what happened. So that's yeah. I like how the music played at the end of the first episode when they left with Ellie. Not at the end, but near the end when they were leaving the building. The 80s music started playing, which means trouble. And he forgot to reset the counter. So it was playing trouble when they left. So literally, he had died just like a few days before. All right, I've gone off on my tangent. Thank you all for watching. Talk to you next time. Toodles.